Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm back here for another video, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to circle Karnaugh maps and formulate an equation. So right, we have A, B, C, D, 4-letter Karnaugh maps, and we're going to make some circles to go through the rules of how to circle them, and with those circles we're going to formulate equations of what each Karnaugh map represents, right? And then so we have 3 Karnaugh maps here. We have E, F, and G, and we're going to figure out how to circle them, okay? So now let's get right into it. So what are the rules of circling Karnaugh maps? So if we go back to our basics, we know that 2 to the power of 0 is equal to 1. We know that 2 to the power of 1 is equal to 2. 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 4. 2 to the power of 3 is equal to 8, right? So we have 4 values here. We have 1, 2, 4, and 8. Now really what that means, we're going to use those 4 values, right? And what we're going to do is we can only circle ones if they fall into this category, such as 1, 2, 4, or 8. Now what I mean by that, for example, is that we can either circle 1, right? We could either circle 2, or we could circle 4, right? Or we could circle 8, right? Do you guys kind of get my drift of where I'm going? We could just circle 1. All right, let me just undo this real quick. So we can either circle 1, right? So this is one box. We can either circle 1 box. Maybe that'll help for a box here. So 1 box, 2 box, 4 box, or 8 box, right? So for example, 8 box right here is here. So we have 8 boxes that we're circling, right? So we can only circle like this. We cannot circle 5 boxes, so we can't circle 3 boxes or 5 boxes or 6 boxes or 7 boxes. We cannot, right? We can't circle that many boxes. It has to be either 1, 2, 4, or 8, right? So that's the first step. Now, what else do we need to know? So when it comes to Karnaugh maps, the other thing that we need to know is that when we circle these boxes, we cannot circle diagonally, right? So we cannot, so let's just say I want to circle 2 boxes. I cannot circle 2 boxes like this. This is not allowed. I cannot circle 2 boxes like this. This is not allowed. I can only circle 2 boxes either horizontally like this or vertically like this, right? So that's the only way I can do it. We cannot do diagonals. And that goes the same for 4 boxes as well. So for example, let's just say I had 4 boxes across all the way here. I cannot circle those, right? That would not be correct. Right? So we cannot circle diagonals. So we're going to write down here, no diagonals. Now, however, there is a specific rule that applies that where we can circle diagonals. And this is called the corner rule. So on the box, we have 4 corners, right? So we know we can either circle 2 boxes or 4 boxes. We can also label that as 2 corners or 4 corners, right? So for example, these 2 corners we can circle diagonally, I guess, this corner, but it connects as well to this corner, right? So all these 4 corners are connected. So that is how we kind of get rid of our diagonal rule, as it only applies to corners. So a couple of examples is we can circle this corner and this corner as under a 2-box corner rule. So we can circle 2 boxes. Or we can circle this corner and this corner vertically under 2-box rules. Or we can circle this corner or this corner under the 2-box rule horizontally, right? So we have horizontally, vertically, and diagonally for our corners, right? And diagonally, we can also circle 4 boxes if there's a 1 in this corner as well as a 1 in this corner. So then that way we would have a 4-corner box, right? So 4 corners all circled, right? So that's how we can circle corners, okay? So that's another way we can circle Karnaugh maps, right? So knowing that, we can circle either 1 box, 2 box, 4 box, or 8 box. We cannot circle 3, 5, 6, and 7, and we cannot circle diagonals unless it is a corner, right? Now, another important thing to mention is what exactly are we circling, right? So what are you talking about circling? What are you supposed to circle? So we have to circle all the ones. We have to circle all the ones in this Karnaugh map to form an equation, because that's basically the equation that lets us always get 1. So we have to circle all the ones. Now you can see we have variable D over here. And what that variable D means, right? So for example, this variable, this variable, this variable, those variables can act like a 1, but it's not necessary we circle them if we don't need to. And we're going to get further into that with examples. But we do not need to circle this variable D unless we do not need to, okay? So if we do not need to, we don't need to circle it, but it can act as a 1. So it could be a 1 if we want it to be a 1, if we need it to be a 1, okay? Now, when it comes to Karnaugh map circling, when we want to circle the ones, in one circle, we want to get the max amount, right? So we want to get the max amount of ones possible in each circle, right? That's our goal. We want to get the max amount of ones possible in each circle. So what I mean by that is that we're always aiming to circle 8 boxes. So this is our first goal. We want to circle 8 boxes. Is 8 boxes possible? It's not possible? All right. Is 4 boxes possible? It's not possible? All right. Are 2 boxes possible? It's not possible? Okay. Is 1 box possible? It's not possible? Okay, right? So we always want to circle the max amount of boxes, okay? We don't want to settle. We always want the max amount of boxes whenever we circle Karnaugh maps, all right? So knowing that, let's see what we can do. Let's get into the first example, right? So if you guys want to pause the video, maybe copy all this stuff down before I erase it, right? So we want to so we have all our rules down, right? And now we want to get the first circle down. So we're going to do number E, okay? Right, so after I circle all this, let's see what we get. So what do you guys think we should do? So we have 1, 2, 4, and 8, right? So let me just write these numbers down over here. So we have 1, 2, 4, and 8, right? So we're going to do letter number E, okay? And then we're going to talk about how we can get the equation. So I'm going to use blue to circle. So we have E. Now, we always want to start with the max, right? So if we start with the max, we want to look for 8 boxes. So is it possible to circle 8 boxes in this first Karnaugh map over here for letter E? Is it possible? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 boxes all connected, and we can circle the D that's part of those 8 boxes because we can circle it if we see it fit or if we need to circle it. And we need to circle these D because it allows us to get the max 8 box value, right? So if we circle this, we are able to get the max 8 box value, right? So we're able to get the max 8 box value, which is why we circle it, okay? So because those D's help us get us that 8 box max value, we're able to circle. So we circled 8, right? So we have 8 values here. And now we have to formulate an equation. Now, how do we formulate that equation? So we have 4 letters here, A, B, C, D. So we can see on the left, we have A is 0, B is 0. On the top, we have C is 0, D is 0. So whatever's on the left is A on the vertical side. Whatever's on the left on the horizontal side is C. And whatever's on the vertical is, on the right side, vertically is B. And whatever's on the right side horizontally is D, right? So if this is 0, 0, we C is 0, D is 0. This is when C is 0 and D is 1. And if you guys see these brackets here when D is covering and B is covering and C is covering like these, right? All that means is that over those 8 boxes of values, that is when A is 1, D is 1, B is 1, and C is 1, okay? So now that we know that basic information, let's see what we can do to kind of formulate an equation for the 8 boxes that we circled, okay? So the easy trick to find out how to circle, to find the equation of the circled 8 boxes, right, is we're going to go through each letter and we're going to see, do the letters change? If the letters change, we do not use them in the equation. We only use the letters that are consistent throughout the whole 8 boxes, right? For example, if you go ahead and look at this, right? If we have these 8 boxes, right, we know for the top row, A is equal to 0. But for the bottom row, A is equal to 1. So that means for this specific circle, A is not going to be in the equation because we have different numbers. We have A is 0 on the top row and A is 1 on the bottom row, right? So we know that we're not going to use A, okay? Now, we know for B, we know that B is 1 on the top row, and we know that B is 1 on the bottom row. So we know that in our first equation, B is going to be a part of the equation, right? So we're going to write down B, right? We know B is going to be in something for this circle, okay? Because we know that B doesn't change. There's 1 on the top row and 1 on the bottom row. So B is going to be part of the equation labeled as B, okay? A B bar would be represented for 0, and B would be represented for 1. So any bar variable is represented as a 0, okay? So that's important to remember. Now, if we go to the top horizontal, let's look over here. We have 4 letters over here, right? So let's see what we get. We see that C is 0 over here, right? C is 0 over here, but C is 1 over here under the same circle, right? So it's not consistent because C is 0 over here, over this column, but C is 1 over this column. So it's not very consistent. So we know that C cannot be used. What about D? We have D is equal to 0 over here, and we have D is equal to 1 over here. So we know it's not consistent. So we know that D cannot be used. So we know that A, C, and D can't be used in the equation. So all we have is B. So basically, for this circle, right, for this top circle, we can determine that the only equation needed to represent these 8 boxes is only B, right? So all we have is B. We're going to put a plus sign, which represents OR, right? And then we're going to circle our next box, okay? I'm going to circle our next box. Now let's see what our next box is. So if we want to circle again, let's talk about, what's the next box? So we circled 8 boxes, right? There's no other 8 boxes that we can circle. So what else can we circle? Let's go to 4 boxes. So we're going to move down, and we're going to see, are there 4 boxes that we can circle that have not already been circled? So 4 boxes that have not already been circled, right? So we know that these bottom 1 and D have not been circled, and this top 1 have not been circled. If we look at the top one, it's not possible to circle 4 boxes, right? Like we cannot do diagonally, so it's not possible to circle 4 boxes. But we can see that we can circle 4 boxes over here. So right, we can circle 4 boxes like this. And if you're wondering if we can overlap circles, yes, we can. We can overlap circles as much as we want. So we have 4 boxes circled over here to represent this black circle, right? So now that we circle that, let's see if we can find an equation. So how do we find an equation? Right, so let's see, what we have to do the same rule if it's consistent. So for the top row, A is 1. For the bottom row, A is 1. So we know that A is going to be part of the equation. So we put down A. Let's see what else we have. For the first column, D is 1. For the second column, D is 0. So D cannot be used, right? For the first column, C is 1. For the second column, C is 1. C is consistent, so we know that we can use C. So we have AC over here, right? Now, let's see what we can do for B, right? We're missing the letter B. So for the first row, we have B is equal to 1, right? For the first row of the black circle, B is equal to 1. For the second row of the black circle, B is equal to 0. So we know that B cannot be used. So initially, what we get for our circle, for the black circle, the equation we get is AC. So for our 8 boxes, we get B. For our 4 boxes, we get AC, right? So now all we have left is 1 box, right? So let's go ahead and figure out how to circle that. Okay? Let's go ahead and circle that. So what do we get? We have B for the blue box. We have AC for the black box. What about our last box? For our last box, we have just 1, right? So we have 1, 2, 4, 8. So let's go down. Next, we have 2, right? So let's see how to do 2. Can we circle 2 boxes including this one? Yes, we can, because we can just go down 2 vertically like this, and we can circle 2 boxes, correct? Right, so then we have 2, because we can circle 8 boxes including this one, and we can circle 4 boxes including this one. So our next best option is 2. So we're going to circle 2 boxes going down vertically. So now what do? We have to formulate the equation for this. So let's see what stays consistent. For the green circle, right? A is 0 for the top row, and A is 0 for the bottom row when both 1s are circled in the green, right? So 1 here, 1 here, A is both 0. So we can do plus A bar. So the A bar represents when A is equal to 0. When A is 0 consistently, we put A bar. And that goes for any bar value. It's when it's 0 consistently, right? So now let's go on. when B is equal to 0 for the top row and B is equal to 1 for the bottom row, it's not consistent. So that means that B cannot be used, okay? B can't be used because it's not consistent. Now let's go forward. C is equal to 0 for the first column, right? And then C is equal to 0. Sorry, so C is equal to 0 throughout for the first column, right? So we can see that C doesn't need to change as this is a vertical one, so it's not going through different columns, right? So because it's not going through different columns, we see that C is equal to 0 is consistent throughout, right? Because for the second row here, C is still 0 over here. So we can go ahead and put C bar to represent when C is equal to 0. Now we can do the same thing for D, because D is equal to 0 for the first column, right? So because D is equal to 0 for the first column, we can see that D is consistent throughout both ones in the green circle. So as you can see here, when we have this one, right? We have this one over here. D is 0 for this one, and D is also 0 for this one. So we know that D is consistent, so we can end up having a D bar over here, right? So now that we can see all our ones are covered, all our ones are circled, and we formed an equation for E. So this is the final equation for this Karnaugh map. We have B plus AC plus A bar, C bar, D bar, right? And that is our final equation for what the Karnaugh map E is supposed to be, right? And that's how we found out. So we have a total of 3 circles. So each circle has its own equation. So 3 circles, 3 equations, right? And then with those equations, we made sure that we circled all the ones. And looking at the letter values for A, B, C, and D, we were able to formulate an equation, all right? So hope you guys enjoyed the video, understood. All right, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. All right, so I'm going to end the video here. And if you guys want more practice with Karnaugh maps and how to circle them to see if you got it right, please find the video for part 2 of Karnaugh mapping. All right, thanks for watching, guys.